Hello, guys. Lots of things to go through today. I wanted to show you many recipes, okay? And some of them have something to do with one another, and others have nothing to do with them. So let's start with the fact that today is February 2nd. It is la fête de la Chandeleur, as they say in French. In English, it is crepe day. I could say it's pancake day, except that would make most French people cringe because they don't make pancakes, they make crepes, and crepes are thin. The batter doesn't include any baking powder. It's not like thick, right? It's not thick and fluffy. It's thin and wide. It's like a big round thin pancake. Okay. And so every year on February 2nd, there's this celebration where people eat crepes, and they eat them salty, they eat them sweet. And I'm going to show you two recipes. One for the batter for the sweet kind. It's my recipe. Everybody's got a different one, so this is just mine. It's very similar to the one that I have on my website. Over the years, it's kind of changed. The one on my website is awesome. This one is the proportions are a little bit different, but it's awesome too. They're very similar. And the other one is a recipe for the savory crepes, so the salty ones. The salty ones will usually have salty fillings, right? So it's, like cheese or mushrooms or whatever. And the idea is to have the salty ones first, and then for dessert you have a sweet one. And the salty ones you could have them with a kind of white flour, kind of like the sweet crepes, but without the sugar. But for the salty ones, traditionally, they're not even called crepes, they're called galettes. And they are made from buckwheat flour. So I will go through that recipe with you because they're not easy to make well, okay? So and then if I have time, I'll show you other recipes, okay, that I've got happening over here. Another thing I wanted to mention, because I'm going to be doing this throughout, is we have a thing in our household, and I'm not going to get into our obsession with Nutella, okay? But those of you who know me know my kids love Nutella, and we buy Nutella, okay? And I've tried to do Nutella substitutes that are healthier, that are actually made with hazelnuts, not just with flavoring, and it's never really been a hit with my kids. Some recipes work better than others, but it's never like the stuff that they're used to. Nevertheless, I think that if your children or you have never had Nutella, then definitely start with the homemade healthy stuff, because once you eat if that's what you start with and it becomes your reference for Nutella, then maybe you won't like the manufactured stuff. Whereas if you start with Nutella and then you get to the healthy one, you're gonna it's not like a real Nutella, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna show you the healthy kind that I make, that I like. My kids like it too. They just don't like it as much as they like the fake stuff. The real, this. All right. So the thing with Nutella is that it's based out of, from hazelnuts, right? You toast hazelnuts. So it's basically 2 cups of hazelnut that I toasted. Here's the rest of them. I put them on a baking sheet at a 160-degree oven. I toasted them, and once they're toasted, because they weren't peeled, you just kind of go like this, and they go from this, unpeeled, to peeled, right? And basically you just take a bunch of them and you go, ta-da, and then they're pretty much, unpeeled. So I took 2 cups of those. And while they were still warm, I put them in the Vitamix, okay? Now, the Vitamix, my friend Kat the other day was chatting with me, and she's she saw me make almond butter on Instagram. And she saw that the almond butter was really smooth and silky. And she said, how do you do that? It doesn't work with my Vitamix. I have to just use the plunger, and it's a nightmare. And then the motor starts going on overdrive and whatever, makes noise. So this is what I do for almond butter, and I do it for the Nutella. It's the same thing. Because the almonds and the hazelnuts are not as greasy as, say, peanuts, okay? So they don't get creamy as easily. It takes a bit longer. And if you just put everything in your Vitamix, which is a high-speed blender for those of you who don't know, if you put it on medium or high or whatever, like for 5-10 minutes with the plunger, it's, first of all, it's gonna start, the motor's gonna start burning. You're gonna start smelling this burnt kind of smell. You're gonna have to stop it. It might even stop by itself. It's a nightmare to plunge and whatever. And it's just like, and it feels like for the whole period of time you're making it, you're like, man, this doesn't feel like right. You know, I feel like, I think I'm just gonna go buy it at the store because I'm gonna ruin my blender. So what I do is I take the nuts while they're still hot out of the oven. For almond butter, I don't even peel at all. I just stick them in the Vitamix. And then what I do is I have a big Vitamix, which makes it even harder because it doesn't fill up the whole thing. But it's about a quarter full or maybe a third full. And I'll put it on low, okay? So I'd like a 2 or 3. And I'm just gonna do this, right? And then it's gonna get powdery, and then I'll do it again and stop and go. And I don't even use the plunger anymore. I just do like that, okay? Now this is very pasty, so it's not doing, like, it's not shaking everywhere, but when it's still powdery and you know, cut up, just shaking it like that is enough, or banging it on the counter a little bit will be enough. And then you put it on low again, never more than like 2 or 3. And then eventually you do this maybe like 5-6 times. You stop, give your blender a break, do it again. And after a while, so I've done this already like 5-6 times. Look, it starts becoming, at some point, I'm not gonna, wait, it's gonna pour all over as usual. So see, it starts getting this like creamy kind of texture, okay? It takes a while, okay? It takes, I'm telling you, it takes a few times. So yeah, this is for Kat. Actually, Kat, I'm interviewing in a podcast this week. I'm so excited because she's a meditation expert. She's a meditation teacher. She's like my meditation guru. Anyways, so that's gonna be really exciting. You get to actually meet Kat on the podcast probably by next week or so. Anyway, so this is for her. You stop, you go, you stop, you go, and you never put it on high because that's gonna burn out your blender, okay? So I will keep doing this throughout, just so it keeps kind of getting really silky, and then later I'll add the chocolate and whatever. Okay, so that explanation is done. That's why that's happening. That's why you might see me walk there and go on, off, on, off. The other thing I put with the 2 cups of hazelnut is I put a teaspoon of sea salt, okay, to begin with. Now, let's get to the crepes. Let's get to the simple ones, like the sweet ones, which are made with, I use gluten-free flour. Sometimes I'll use all-purpose flour. It depends. If you use gluten-free flour, get a really good quality gluten-free flour. What I mean by good quality is get one that you've used before and that you're happy with your results, okay? Because sometimes certain gluten-free flours have too much arrowroot, or they might have too much rice flour in it, and it gets goopy. And you don't want that when you're making crepes, okay? Especially since it gets even gloopier if you leave it in the fridge for a few hours. And crepes, like crepe batter, needs to be put aside in the fridge for a few hours, okay? So that's that. Now, what I'm gonna do is, let me just put that over here. Okay, so let me give you my recipe. This is all-purpose flour, but you could use gluten-free, okay? So I'm gonna put 3/4 cups, which is, because this is like a huge cup. I'm so sad. I had like a really nice glass Pyrex measuring cup, and it died on me. I'm so upset. So here you want, what did I say? Did I say 3/4 cups? No, I don't want 3/4 cups. I want 1.5 cup. Okay, I want 1.5 cup. That's what I need. All right. So That's 1.5 cups. I'm gonna put it in here. I'm going to add a bit more of the sea salt that I love. Okay, this is a sea salt from Brittany, actually. And because crepes, you know, are from Brittany. You know, it's like that region in France, and like western kind of France, where they're very known for their crepes. Okay, so I'm gonna mix the flour and the salt. You can also put the sugar at this point. So I use coconut sugar. You don't need to use a lot of sugar, to be honest. I mean, you know, I use like maybe 2 tablespoons. You can put no sugar, you know, but I mean, especially if you're gonna put like jam or whatever after, or like sweet stuff on it. But I always put a little bit. Sometimes I put maple syrup. Then I'm going to, oh boy, I'm gonna put an egg, and look what happened. Oh my God. I was going to open the egg thing, and then I realized I had eggs on the counter, and one of them fell. Okay. I do not yet have the budget to have somebody clean up my mess while I'm cooking and doing a video, so I will just leave that there for now and carry on. All right. All right, so I'm gonna put 2 eggs. I put the eggs directly in. These have been out of the fridge for about half an hour, but to be honest, in the morning, often I'll just take it straight out of the fridge, no big deal. So I start by mixing the eggs into the flour, and it's gonna get like crumbly, and you know, you're kind of thinking it's very dry. You'll see it's like this, right? It's like, you know, and you're thinking, it's not gonna be good like this. It's gonna have all these lumps, but don't worry. Then you can choose to either use regular milk, or I've used oat milk and it works really well. You can use almond milk. Sometimes I just mix a bunch of plant milks that I have left over and whatever. So you put about, let me measure this. I never measure usually. Are you surprised? so this is about a cup, okay? This is not enough, right? You're gonna need more than a cup, but let's just put half a cup. I'll put half of it in here. Why do I not put everything in? Because I don't want lumps. If you put all your liquids in one shot, it's gonna get lumpy. It's gonna get lumpy. So here, just, you know, incorporate enough milk so that you can kind of get all the flour to stick together and create like a wet ball of dough. And then but then make it so that it's like a smooth wet ball of dough. If you put all the milk and all the liquids right away, you're gonna get a lot of liquid, and the flour is gonna get clumpy, and it's just gonna be a nightmare to get a smooth batter. And you don't want a clumpy batter for crepes because they're thin, right? So if you've got a thin crepe, there's gonna be lumps, and it's not gonna be pretty. I mean, unless they're big lumps, nobody will be able to tell really, but like between you and I, but still, I don't like the look of it. See, so now, because I haven't put all the liquid, it looks like pancake batter, right? It's very thick, and but it's smooth, right? Once you've got a thick, smooth batter, that's when you can add a bit more of the milk, okay? So here, you see I had 1 cup. So there you go. It's a bit of work, but to be honest, you could use the Vitamix for this, but because I'm doing the hazelnut butter, the Nutella, I should say, it takes a bit, you know, I'm doing it by hand, but anyways, you can totally do it by hand. It's not that hard. Yeah, okay, so once I've put and incorporated the cup like this, you're gonna see the batter is nice and smooth. It's still quite thick, and you definitely don't want a thick batter when you're making crepes. In fact, you will, the first few times you make them, you will probably make a batter that's too thick, and you're gonna be like putting what I'm telling you to put in, you're gonna be like, oh my God, no, this is too liquid. I'm telling you, put quite a bit of liquid. All right, so let me put now water, because I do half water, half milk. Why? I don't know, but that's the recipe I learned. And if you look at Julia Child's recipe, she also does put quite a bit of water in the recipe. And Julia Child knew what she was doing, right? So there you go. So you see how it's quite liquid, but that's still not liquid enough, all right? So you really want to put almost, like, I would say it's all like almost 2 cups of liquid versus like 1 cup of the flour, yeah? Maybe not quite as much, but close. So there you go. This is the kind of, you know, texture I want, right? It's like this. Okay, that's done. Now, what I also do is I put some vanilla extract. You can also put vanilla like powder, you know, like the vanilla pods that you scrape off. Another thing I sometimes do is I scrape a vanilla pod into a pot of coconut sugar, and I leave it for like a few weeks, and it becomes a vanilla sugar that I just put in which case then I don't need to put vanilla. At this point, if you're doing this for adults, you could put a bit of rum, or, you know, you could put something else to flavor it. Another thing I like to do, and on my blog, the recipe adds this, I'll put orange blossom water. Orange blossom water is very, very good. It's this, you find it often in Middle Eastern stores. And I have it here, but I'm not going to put it in today because usually it's something I'll put in if you're having it with just, like if you were having crepes with just a dusting of sugar or something, then this gives a nice kind of, it's an orangey taste, but it's not a strong orange zest kind of taste. So you may not like orange, but you may like this, okay? But nevertheless, it has this flavor that's very nice, but it's very, you know, unique. So you might not want to mix it if you're having it with Nutella, all right, or with chocolate or apples or whatever. But it's delicious. Like my kids, I always used to make it with this before, and I wouldn't put vanilla extract. I would put 2 tablespoons of this. Okay, so that is done. You don't need to do anything else. It just needs to stay there and wait a couple of hours, okay? So that's that. And what I'm gonna do is, I might bake one if I have time. If I don't, I'll post some pictures on the internet or whatever, and you can go check it out there. But that's the batter. And just so that you get, because that's the important thing, is getting the texture right. The texture is like, you see, it's a liquidy split, man. It's like liquid. It's the kind of liquid, like if you took vanilla ice cream and you left it on the counter and it melted completely and it was liquid, it would almost be like that kind of liquid, all right? Now, next, the salty crepes, which are called galettes. So for those, I've put in here 3/4 cups of white spelt flour. You could use gluten-free if it's a good quality one, or, you know, whole wheat flour, white flour, whatever. But you need some kind of flour that is glutinous. It doesn't have to have gluten, but it needs to be a flour that holds stuff together. Because buckwheat flour, which is what I've got here, if you're in America or in the UK, Bob Red Mills makes a really good buckwheat flour. That's a bit darker than this one. It smells so good. I love buckwheat. Anyways, so you put 3/4 cups of this one. So it's half-half, 3/4 of spelt or flour, or regular flour, and 3/4 of buckwheat. Now, the thing is with buckwheat is that it's not, buckwheat is like a plant, right? It's not glutinous at all. So it's not going to hold well together if you are cooking it. And especially if you're making a thin crepe, it's going to be a nightmare, all right, to hold together. So you need to mix it with a flour that's glutinous, which is why I do half-half. Teaspoon of this wonderful salt. I'm going to just rinse this quickly. And then I put water. You need to put 2.5 cups of water, all right? So I'm going to fill this to 2.5 cups. Right? Okay. And I'll put it in here. And I mix. Now, the nice thing with buckwheat is that it's one of these flours that doesn't clump together. So there might be a few clumps because of this other flour, the spelt one I used, sorry. But by and large, it's not clumpy. It's not a flour that clumps because it's a plant. And so you see how I poured the water and it's like done, you know? So there you have it. Oh, I just forgot something I realized. In this batter, the sweet one, I forgot melted butter, man. I put 3 tablespoons of melted butter. You could just add it, it's fine. At the end, you could put melted coconut oil, you could put melted ghee, you could put whatever, you know, any kind of, I mean, some people put like some vegetable oil. Don't do that. So there you have it. Now, the other thing I put in here, and most recipes, I'll be careful with the eggs this time, is I put an egg. Why do I put an egg? Because that also helps it hold together. Now, I've tested without an egg because all these like French grandmothers have told me, no, you don't put eggs in the galette butter, da da da. Telling you, it's better with an egg. You can try it without if you're vegan and it will be fine, but it's better in terms of the texture and everything if you put an egg, okay? So, 3/4 cups spelt flour or regular flour, 3/4 cups buckwheat flour, 2.5 cups of water, and you can put more, okay? Like I find, like I put 2.5 cups, I'll probably add another 1/4 cup, okay? Because this is not as liquid or as it should be, you know, it should be as liquid as this one, so I would probably add a bit more. Now, so there you go. This also, you can add butter, and the butter that they use in Brittany is salted butter, okay? So you could put it. Some people put oil, but you know, in Brittany they would say it's a sacrilege. You don't put butter. No, you don't put oil. You would put salted butter. There you go. This does not need to rest for as long, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one, and I'll show you. I put the heat on high, and let me melt a bit of butter, okay? I didn't put any in the batter, and let me tell you why, okay? Because in the batter for the buckwheat crepes, the galettes, you actually don't need to put a lot of butter. And even if you don't, like I've known people who've not put butter at all. The important thing though is that you put butter in the pan, and it's got to be salted butter, okay? Whereas in this batter, the sweet one, you definitely want to put a bit of butter or some greasy something in there, okay? Whereas this, you can get away with it without, you know, putting butter. So that's that. The butter is sizzling over here. Let me go do my hazelnut thing. See, I do a little bit here and there. Okay, so this is sizzling. It's really got to sizzle nicely. I'm gonna have to clean this. Like that, you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now I'm going to take about this much. Now, I'm gonna heat this griddle a lot. This is a special griddle, by the way, for crepes and galettes, because it's thin and it's a bit bigger than the average kind of tefal pan, all right? So there you go. Okay, this is a very long video. I'm sorry guys, but I have so much to explain. I don't think I'm gonna have time to even get into the endives that I wanted to show you. But anyways, I was gonna make an endive recipe, another video for another day. Okay, so this is very hot and sizzling. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a ladle, but here's the thing, I will slowly kind of do this, and then see the rest, the remainder, that's like the extra batter, I put it back in here. See how I did that? That is a good hack to not have a thick crepe or galette, okay? I always do that. Because when they're thick, it's not as nice. You know what I mean? It's just not as nice to have a thick. They're not meant to be thick. They're supposed to be thin. In fact, if you go to a vendor in Paris who sells these, and they've got these big cast iron, electric machines that do these huge crepes, they've got this thing, this tool that allows them to do really thin crepes, and they're like lace almost, so here I'm gonna let this cook on high heat, and I'm gonna wait. Okay, you can tell that it's time to flip when the edges start becoming brown. Okay, they start kind of coming off on the sides, and they start becoming brown, right? And then you just you see that? So see how it's kind of getting dry over here? Okay, you can leave it for a little bit more, but as soon as it starts getting brown, that's when you flip, okay? I could have left it a little bit longer. And then what I do, because it's not over, all right? This is why the galette, it's important for me to explain how to do this properly, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put it here. This is cooked, but it's not golden and whatever, okay, yet. Let me put a bit more butter on this for another one. I'll make another one. Now this is what I call pre-cooked. I cook them twice. Okay, so I cook the first time, I make it cooked. I make sure it's cooked. And the second time I cook it, I will put the fillings in, okay? Because galettes, you need to put a filling in, right? Ooh, I see here I didn't even put enough butter. There we go. You need to put the filling in. And the filling will typically be ham or cheese or mushrooms or whatever. I don't have filling that's ready now, but what I would do is, I'll show you what I would do with pretend ingredients, okay? So if I was to put cheese, okay, I would put Emmental cheese, because that is the French cheese that people put on salty crepes, okay? And it's grated, and I would put it like this, okay? I would also put, I'm kind of on the vegetarian side personally, so just put this. So I would put sauteed mushrooms. Look at my YouTube videos. I show you how I make my sauteed mushrooms. You could put red onion that's sliced and sauteed as well. You could put another type of cheese if you wanted to. You could put spinach, wilted spinach. That's really nice. Just make sure you squeeze all the water out. And there you go. And then you just close it. And let me show you how they close it. Okay, so as such, okay, so I close on one side. I show you this on my head. I have a picture of how this is supposed to look. There, like this, then like this, okay, and then like this. You see, a little square, and like that. See, it's like a little parcel, okay? And then you bake it again in the pan. So this one's done. Let me bake it for you, okay? You can put butter again if you wanted to, and traditionally they would, but I won't do that now. So I'll put that on here. You can lower the heat a little bit. Everything's gonna melt, and then you flip it again. And then what you can do if you want, a lot of people like this, is they'll put a fried egg on top, or a poached egg on top. And it's really, really delicious. So you have that, you might have one, you might have two. It's kind of almost make your own filling and make your own galette. That's what we do at our house. And there you have it, and it's a really nice dinner. And you can really make this any night of the week. It doesn't have to be Chandeleur day to make it. So let me take this and flip, and it gets kind of nice and toasty. So it's nice. Now, this is not very dark, okay? Usually, if you're using, like, it depends on the buckwheat flour you take. Some buckwheat flours are very dark, so the Bob Red Mills one will give you a darker crepe. So it really depends on the type of buckwheat flour you use. There's some Russian brands as well that can be more or less dark. And also, because I did half-half, it doesn't get as dark, but it's delicious. Okay, and so here, again, did you see? It gets nice and toasted like this, right? And when everything is nice and toasted, you put the egg on top or not, whatever, serve it with side salad, and it's delicious. So there you have it. Now, as for my Nutella, let me show you, and then I will bid you farewell, because it's going to be like a half hour. I need like an hour show to show you stuff. What I do is I will put, so now that, like, let me just show you the texture of this baby. Right now, it's very creamy, right? It's like, you see that? It's like pouring creamy. So I like it to be super extra duper, super duper creamy. So I'll leave it there a little bit longer. I will also put in some cocoa, all right? So I take raw cocoa powder, and I'm going to put 2 tablespoons, okay? Like 2 big tablespoons. And then, you see, when you put 2 tablespoons, it starts getting chocolatey, all right? But it's not super dark chocolate yet. So you can put more or less depending on how strong of a chocolate taste you want. And I also put a few tablespoons, like 3 tablespoons of coconut sugar. You could put white sugar, you could use, you know, whatever sugar you like. I wouldn't put maple syrup or syrup of any kind, because that will change the texture a little bit. But you see, it's quite beautiful. It's like this kind of, it really does look like Nutella, but it has a much stronger hazelnut taste. So you really taste the hazelnut. Whereas this Nutella, like, this is like, there is no hazelnut in here. Like, I don't even know. Oh yes, 13% hazelnut. Okay. It's sugar, palm oil, and 13% hazelnut, and then it's skim milk powder and cocoa and emulsifiers and lecithins and blah. Whatever. This is like 90% hazelnut. It's a lot of hazelnut. So it's much healthier, and it has a very, like, a really real hazelnut taste. And you could also add vanilla extract to this, okay? And that will be very nice as well. So there you go, and then you just put some of that on your sweet crepe, and it's amazing. So there you go, and this is my salty crepe that's done. I'll just put it here. I will post these pictures later, so you can really see what I'm doing. But yeah, that's my Chandeleur episode, guys. If you have questions, please let me know. If you need ideas for fillings, in terms of the sweet ones, you could do banana with this hazelnut spread or Nutella. You could just do like orange juice or like orange zest with butter and a bit of maple syrup. You mix it together, and it gives it like a crêpe Suzette, like an orange crêpe. You could also just do Grand Marnier. That's what a lot of French people will do. They'll take Grand Marnier, you know, the orange liqueur. They're going to just take a few tablespoons of Grand Marnier in a pan. They're going to heat up the crêpe, put a bit of sugar, and boom. And they do the same thing with rum as well. Obviously, you wouldn't like give this to children. But the typical thing for the kids is strawberry jam or strawberry compote. I like my compote recipes on my website. I often will use that with the crepes. instead of jam, because there's less sugar and there's more fruit. It's really delicious. Also, just a little bit of, you could put a little bit of sugar, like a dusting of sugar and a squeeze of lemon. That's really delicious. And you can put baked apples in there with some vanilla, or baked pears with vanilla. I mean, the combinations are endless. And once you get started, like, you can keep going and going. We like the banana kind of chocolate spread combination. And sometimes you can put whipped cream on top as well if you really want to get decadent. And for the salty ones, like I said, it's the typical one is ham, cheese, mushrooms. Okay, that's like, and then with an egg on top. That's the classic one that everybody takes, and everybody knows. You could also do just cheese and mushrooms, or you could just do cheese, mushroom, spinach. You could do, there's one I used to always take when I was in Paris. We were living in Paris, and there was a stand that used to make them next to the office. And the guy would make one with crème fraîche. It's like a thick cream, like sour cream. So he would do the galettes, but instead of putting that cheese, he would maybe put a little bit of that cheese, like a sprinkling. Then he would put crème fraîche. It's like sour cream. Smoked salmon, like a slice of smoked salmon. A few capers, and then you close the thing, and like that. It was so amazing. And it's a really good combination, by the way, because buckwheat, smoked salmon are amazing together. I don't know if you've ever had blinis with smoked salmon, but blinis, like the traditional blini, was kind of often had buckwheat, right? So buckwheat, smoked salmon, amazing combo. You could do roquefort with walnuts and pear, that's really nice as well with buckwheat. And again, you serve with a side salad. So this can actually be like healthy, and if you don't want to put dairy, you don't put dairy, and you just put grilled vegetables or whatever, and it's really nice. And if you're a big meat eater, then definitely go for the cold cuts and the ham and the whatever. You could put like bacon in there if you wanted to. I bet it's really good. But yeah, those are like the popular ones, I would say. A lot of people also, they'll do like chèvre, goat cheese. They'll do goat cheese with maybe some walnuts and maybe some herbs or not. And yeah. So if you've got questions, let me know, and please post comments in the video if you've got any questions. Go check out the website for more recipes if you want to get the exact recipes. They're all there on wellmama.com, WELLMA.com. And as for the other recipes I wanted to show you, well, it's just gonna have to wait. See, I had these beautiful endives. They're actually not beautiful anymore, which is why I have to make them tonight. And I wanted to tell you what to do with endives. It'll be for another day. Doesn't matter. Happy crepe day, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of the week.